You were at a wedding. The food was fine, the speeches went on too long. Everyone is slightly tired, slightly drunk, and slightly unsure whether they should leave. And then the DJ drops something with a beat, and suddenly your aunt is on the floor, and your normally reserved colleague is doing something with his arms, and you who said you were just going to sit here, are up. You did not plan this. Your body just went. Here is the thing nobody at that wedding will tell you. You just did something that humans have been doing for at least 100,000 years, and you did it for the exact same reason they did. Not because someone told you to, not because it was culturally appropriate, because something in your brain heard a rhythm, and it needed to move. And we genuinely do not know why. Scientists have been arguing about this for decades, and the honest answer is that we still are not completely sure. But we are getting closer. And what they are finding is both stranger and more obvious than anyone expected. We will get to the part where Oxford researchers actually measured what dancing does to your brain, and what it proves about why you cannot stop. But first, let us go back. Way back. Before the DJ. Before music videos. Before anyone had invented a word for what they were doing at all. Around 100,000 years ago, in the Carmel Mountains of what is now Israel, people were burying their dead. And here is what archaeologists found buried with them. Red ochre, used to paint the body, and shells imported from distant coasts. These are not functional objects. You do not need a shell to survive. You need a shell to mark an occasion, to make a moment feel bigger than ordinary life. Archaeologist Yosef Garfinkel of Hebrew University spent decades studying the evolution of human dance and concluded that these burial sites point to the second great phase of human dancing. Communal movement as a rite of passage. But his model says there was a phase before that, and it is probably the most embarrassing one. Dancing started as a way to get someone to sleep with you. Yes. Before it was spiritual, before it was communal, before it was ceremonial, dance was a mating display. Garfinkel's research argues that the earliest form of human dancing was individual courtship movement, exactly like birds, exactly like insects, exactly like almost every other animal that uses coordinated motion to say, "Look at me, I am the one you want." You think ancient humans were above this? You literally do this every Saturday night and call it going out. The outfit, the venue, the particular way you start moving when someone you like is nearby. That is not modern flirting. That is 100,000 years of evolution pulling your strings. But here is where it gets genuinely strange. Dancing did not stay a solo performance. At some point, humans started dancing together, in groups, in sync, and something unexpected happened to their bodies. Robin Dunbar is an evolutionary psychologist at Oxford University who has spent his career asking one very specific question. How do humans bond with each other? And one of his answers involves dancing. In a 2015 study, Dunbar and his colleagues at Oxford tested what happens when people dance in synchrony versus when they move to the same music but slightly out of step with each other. The researchers measured pain threshold as a proxy for endorphin release. Endorphins being the natural opioids your brain produces when it wants you to feel good and connected. The finding was striking. People who danced in perfect synchrony with others had meaningfully higher pain thresholds. Their bodies were releasing more endorphins. They literally felt less pain, and they reported feeling significantly more bonded to the people around them. Dancing together does something to your brain that talking alone cannot do. It bypasses the slow, effortful process of getting to know someone through conversation and floods your system with a neurochemical that says, "These people are my people." Think about what this means for a group of hunter-gatherers living 50,000 years ago in a world where trust is survival. If your group does not cooperate, you do not eat. If you cannot hunt together, coordinate together, risk your life for people outside your immediate family, you are done. Dancing around a fire every night was not entertainment. It was the social glue that held everything together. It was the meeting, the team-building exercise, and the group therapy session all at once. There is cave art to prove it. In East Kalimantan, Borneo, there are paintings of humans dancing together in coordinated groups that researchers date to between 13,000 and 20,000 years ago. In the Bhimbetka rock shelters in India, figures in dance-like positions appear in paintings approximately 9,000 years old. Rock art from roughly 35,000 years ago in Europe shows grouped human figures with bent knees and raised arms that archaeologists interpret as communal movement scenes. These were not doodles. People went into caves with pigment and torchlight and put dancing on the walls. That tells you something about how important it was. And then it gets genuinely strange, because dancing did not just bond people to each other. It started doing something else entirely. Around 40,000 years ago, right around the time you get an explosion of symbolic art across Europe and Asia, something shifts in the archaeological record. Hybrid figurines appear, half human, half animal. Cave paintings get more elaborate, and dance starts appearing in contexts that are clearly not about courtship and not just about community bonding. Garfinkel calls this the trance phase, and the evidence for it is everywhere across cultures. In 90% of 488 societies studied by anthropologists, dance is used to induce trance states during sacred ceremonies. This is not a coincidence. This is a feature, the same neurochemistry that makes you feel close to the people on the dance floor, with you also, at high enough intensity and repetition, starts doing something much weirder to your sense of self. The boundary between you and the music, you and the group, you and whatever you believe, is out there, starts to dissolve. You think this sounds exotic and ancient? You went to a concert last year and you know exactly what we are talking about. That moment when the crowd moves as one, when the bass is physical, when you are no longer aware of yourself as a separate individual, but just a part of something much larger. Ancient humans were not doing something mystical and foreign. They were doing the same thing you do at festivals. And they just did not have a word for it yet except holy. This video discusses anthropological and archaeological research for educational purposes. Modern hunter-gatherer observations are used as comparative models to understand ancient human behavior, not as definitive proof of how all ancient humans lived across different time periods and geographies. So why does any of this matter? Why did a behavior that started as a bird-like mating display become the thing that holds societies together, initiates the young into adulthood, communicates with the spirits, marks the harvest, mourns the dead, and celebrates everything worth celebrating? The answer, according to researchers like Dunbar, is that dancing is the most efficient bonding technology humans ever discovered. Grooming, the way primates bond with each other, works beautifully, but it only works one-on-one. You can only groom one other animal at a time. Humans needed to bond with groups, with dozens of people simultaneously, because larger groups meant more eyes, more hands, more firepower against a world full of things trying to kill you. Dance solved this problem. You can dance with 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, and the endorphin release happens for all of them at once. It scales. It was the original social media, a way to broadcast trust and connection to everyone in range, all at the same time. Now think back to that wedding. Your aunt on the floor, your colleague with his arms, you, who are absolutely not going to dance. Something happened when the music changed. Not in your brain exactly, or not only there. In your whole nervous system, something ancient activated and said, "This is what we do here. This is how we know we are the same." 100,000 years of that exact same moment. Different fires, different beats, different feet on different ground. And every single time, the same result. Strangers becoming something more than strangers. A group becoming something that feels, for a few minutes, like it cannot be broken. That feeling is not an accident. It is the whole point. It always was.